Welcome back, everybody. Glad you're with us as we preview the SEC Championship game. Of course, our coverage on Saturday from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium begins at 12 noon Central Time. The kickoff will be 3 o'clock Alabama time, Central Time on Saturday. Hope you can tune in. Chris Brees from CBS 42 Sports is our special guest. Good to see you, sir.
And I think it's pretty obvious who just walked in the door right now.
Yeah, the applause is nice, but it's not all for you. But great to have Coach Saban joining us here as he makes his way to the stage. And, of course, folks, if you'd like to be part of the show, 877-202-BAMA, 877-202-BAMA. And the coach is getting himself situated now. Good to see you, sir. How are you? Good. I am well, thank you. We just had an interesting first half hour visiting with Antonio Langham, who yesterday was announced as a newest inductee, one of the inductees into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. And he gave you so much credit in our conversation, stuff that he learned from you while you were with the Browns. He said, man, the man rode me hard and long. He said, but I learned a lot.
Well, he was a really good player for us. You know, we drafted him, I think, the 9th pick in the draft.
Right.
When I was there with Bill. And he had a great rookie year. We actually had the best defense in the NFL that year, 1994. And he was a starter and did a really, really good job. I mean, really did a good job. And, you know, I've always been proud of him. Yeah. I know he tells some stories. I hope he didn't tell some of the stories.
No, he told us about how he held out that first time. And he said, well, when I finally showed up, he said, the coach just rode me hard all season, but goodness, he made me a far better player. He was straight up about it.
Well, that's good to know, because I know he's got some stories that I'm glad he didn't share.
I hear you. You know Chris Brees from CBS 42 in Birmingham. Yep. Chris, why don't you jump in with the first question for the coach?
Yeah, Coach, I know yesterday you talked to us a lot about players and mental fatigue and 14 weeks into a year. I know every team has that. They're beat up physically and mentally. I'm curious, is there something coaching and tangible-wise that you can get your guys prepared to be mentally not fatigued? It doesn't seem like a coachable measure. How do you do that?
Well, I do believe that people get tired physically, but I also think that people can get tired mentally. And maybe all of you or some of you have experienced that at some point in time when you work a long, long time or you do something for a long, long time. It gets to the point where you have a lot of trouble staying focused. But, you know, what we try to do with our players is get them to understand that that's going to happen. And what I say to them is, you know, whatever you look at the longest becomes the strongest. So if you start thinking about how tired you are, if you start thinking about all those things, you know, it really becomes bigger than life. And I actually do think that the last couple games, we've been a little flat in the first half. So, you know, that kind of makes you wonder if the players are not necessarily physically tired, because they came back and played really well in the second half, but maybe went in with not quite the mental intensity and focus that you need to have to go out there and perform, play fast. You know, the other thing is when you get that way, you don't really practice fast. Or if you don't practice fast, you don't react fast in the game. So I'd rather practice less reps in practice and do it fast and do it the right way, so that those habits and that sort of quickness sort of carries over in the game. So I think it's there. I think you try to manage it the best you can. You know, we use a lot of physical catapult system that's like a GPS on you that tells you what your explosive movements are and how many times you can duplicate that. And we have a baseline on every player. Well, if that starts to go down, then we know that player's physically tired. So we need to cut back on reps or something in practice so that we're keeping guys, you know, playing at the top level physically. So there is some scientific things that you can do physically, but not really mentally. And I think that's just a challenge for everybody to have the right mindset to try to think of things in a positive way. And I think when you think of what you want instead of how you feel, it's a little easier to choose to do the right things.
How much have you adjusted over the years when determining what day you're going out there in full pads, what days just in helmets and so on? Have you changed how you look at things over the years?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that there was a time when I thought you had to do this much work every week to be ready for a game. And I think as the years have gone on, I've learned that sometimes less is more,
Gotcha.
especially when you reach a certain time in the season. So we do try to cut back a little bit. We give players a couple days off, on occasion, where we have 2 days off. We don't practice on Monday. We don't practice on Sunday. We don't practice on Monday. We cut way back on Monday's practice. We cut back some this week.
Right, gotcha. Let's go to the phones, Coach. Our first call tonight, as always, sponsored by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig. To know what's below, call 811 or online. Go to al811.com. Pee Wee in Grand Bay, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. Coach, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Pee Wee. How about you?
I'm doing great, Coach.
Good.
I got two things tonight. Number one, I just want to ask about Deontay Brown. Noticed that he got back in the game. Just curious how he did and if he'd be able to play maybe a little bit more. I'm not really sure how much he played last week. Just some updates on him. And then secondly, I read an outstanding article this week about Josh Jacobs and all the adversity that he came through coming up and coming into class and into college. And I would, if you could just talk about him a little bit and how he has progressed from what he got here to being a very integral part of our offense this year.
Right. Well, first off, Deontay Brown was back in the lineup. He did play well. He's really played well for us since he became a starter several weeks ago, and then he hurt his toe and he missed a while. But he's come back and done a very good job. So, Deontay has got a very natural power base, and that's the kind of guys you really like playing guard. Kind of a low center of gravity. If you're going to put it in automotive terms, you would say he plays in bulldog low. I mean, he's got power, and it may not be the most fastest thing that you've ever seen, but it
gets there.
It gets there, and it gets a lot of movement, and he road grates people in the process. So he's done really well for us, and he's very athletic. He's got good feet, and he can pass pro. So he's really developed nicely for us. Josh Jacobs is. I didn't read the article. I know some of the things that you might be talking about. But this guy is one of the finest people, hardest workers. And, some guys, they don't really want to do all the jobs. They want to carry the ball, how many carries I get, how many yards I gain, how many touchdowns I score. This guy is probably the best special teams player, on our team. And, goes hard every play in practice. We're covering kickoffs. He's never begging out. He's always the first one down. Kickoff return, he's a great returner. Just anything that he can do to help the team. Never complains about how many carries he got, how many passes he caught, how many plays did he play. When you say you're in, he's like excited and big eyes to get in there. And you just love to have guys like that on your team. And I think that maybe some of these things that he had to go through, some of the adversity that he had to go through to overcome, sometimes those things sort of help you develop those kind of characteristics, in your personality. So, he's a great person, and, man, he's been a real productive player on our team.
And as I like to say, I just love watching him. The guy can make chicken salad out of chicken droppings sometimes. I mean, you think he's caught behind the line of scrimmage. Next thing you know, he's got a 6 or 8 yard gainer. So he's a lot of fun to watch.
Right.
We heard a couple of folks applaud in the background before. Bama's basketball team has just taken the lead over Central Florida. They were trailing by double figures early and have now battled back to take the lead in Orlando. They're early in the second half. Coach, we have a visitor with us right here at the restaurant. Ma'am, good evening.
Hey, Nick. So when you're looking at the films and the videos of the other teams, do you tend to look more at the people that have struggled or the people that are doing well, the players that are doing well?
On the other team? Well, I think both. I think that, technically you're trying to identify player strengths whether it's a defensive lineman that you have to block as an offensive lineman, whether it's a wide receiver that you have to cover as a defensive back. You technically, and we have guys that actually look at, what kind of receiver is this guy? All right, what kind of pass rusher is this guy? So you do those individual things, but then there's a more technical, big picture of what is their offense, what are their personnel groups, what are their formations, what do they do on defense, what are their fronts, what are their blitzes, what kind of pressures do they run on rundowns. So there is not one thing that you look at, but if you do find a weakness, you certainly want to look at trying to exploit it. You also do self-scout on your own self to find out if you're really kind of showing a weakness in some area that you may need to do something about, whether it's from a personnel standpoint or from a technical standpoint, which means your scheme. So all those things are important. And then you try to match up what you can do versus what they do so that your players have the best chance to be successful, in that situation when it comes up. And the multiples that people have now on offense are like astronomical compared to 20 years ago. I mean, to have 168 pages of different formations is like normal. I mean, it's unbelievable, all the different things that people do on offense now. And it's really good, and it makes the game more exciting, but it also makes it hard for defensive coaches to, try to get everybody in the right place all the time, too.
It can't be easy.
Speaking of defensive coaches, I feel like fans all the time are wanting to talk about you and your former assistants and 15-0 and yada, yada, yada. A lot of them always say, oh, well, we have a former assistant who's playing against Alabama. He must know all our plays and our schemes. And I know it's not that simple, obviously, but what would you say to those people who say they're worried about Kirby Smart 9 years knowing the tendencies at Alabama?
Well, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, he definitely knows what we do here, but he's doing a lot of that same stuff there. So, we know some of it too. But I think everybody you never know what you're going to do on that particular play. So even if you know the system and you have the playbook, you don't know what part of that's going to come out on that particular play. But, that stuff about beating assistants, I think that's really, really overrated. I think we have an established program here. A lot of those assistants that have gone on to get head coaching jobs, they help build this program to be what it is. Their hard work, recruiting, developing players, helping build the systems that, have helped us be successful here. So we have an established program. And most of those guys, when they got jobs, they had to go try to reestablish the program that they went to. So we haven't always played on a level playing field. Now, I think Georgia, I think they won like 10 games when Kirby went there. So he made them better. He's made them a lot better. He's recruited really well. He's coached them really well. They're really sound in what they do. They present a lot of problems to you on offense. So they've done a really good job of making it even better. So now they're like a national power. So, but most of the other guys that are assistants that we play, they're taking over programs that were not successful, and they are trying to build them up. So it's not really a level playing field. And, our players are better than their players. I'm not saying that arrogantly. It's just that we have an established program. So it's not about the coaching. I think it's more about the players that you have to coach and how you've been able to develop, sort of the consistency and performance on your team.
Second down and a couple. Tua on the left side goes to Jerry Jeudy, has separation, makes the grab, he's walking in. Touchdown, Alabama! 47 yards. He got separation from Jamel Dean at about the 8-yard line, and Tua hit him with a beautiful pass for an Alabama touchdown. Jerry Jeudy now with 1,079 receiving yards. That's number 3 in Bama's single-season records, behind Julio Jones and Amari Cooper. And, of course, Jerry Jeudy, a finalist for the Fred Biletnikoff Award. As we welcome you back, I'm Eli Gold. Chris Brees from CBS 42 in Birmingham is with us. You came to Birmingham from Fayetteville, Arkansas. You were there with, what, a couple of different football coaches, right?
It was very interesting. I got there about 2 months after Bobby Petrino had his infamous crash.
Okay.
And then the John L. Smith year.
Yes.
And then, of course,
And then
Nick
Brett
Saban knows him
Bielema.
well. And
Yeah.
then Brett Bielema's first 2 years, which one was historically bad. The second one, I remember a game against Alabama. I was there. It was pouring rain. And Alabama won by an extra point that was missed by Arkansas. They probably outplayed them, to be honest.
Sure.
But that was right in the middle of that year where they go to the playoff. And everyone's wondering, oh, this Alabama offense, what's wrong with them? And they go on and just
Sure.
go on a tirade
Exactly.
after that.
Now, you were also out on the West Coast in Medford, Oregon, covering football out there. I would dare say, even with all due respect to the Oregon Ducks and the Oregon State Beavers, probably a whole different world than it is down here, huh?
Yeah, they love their outdoor sports
Sure.
in Oregon. I don't know if you've ever been. But
Yes,
if
I
you
have.
love the outdoors, Oregon is the place for you. So football is clearly not king there. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with college football, so living here is just a dream for me.
I hear you. Let's get right back to the phones as Coach Nick Saban rejoins us on the SEC Championship Game preview show presented by the Soup Store. Let's head down to Mobile, Alabama. Glenn, welcome into the program. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Good. What's on your mind, sir?
Roll Tide, Coach Saban.
All right, Glenn. You too, buddy. You doing all right?
With the current committee, I'm doing great. I love what you've done for our program. I've been a huge supporter forever, and you've done just absolutely wonderful, wonderful things to the program. And there's nothing more that I could say better than somebody else should be giving you those accolades for the Coach of the Year every year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you, but we've had a pretty good team around here, too.
And you were directly related to making that happen. My question and kind of comment is, with the current committee selection, there is some talk about if Alabama was to lose the SEC championship game, that we should possibly be dropped out of the top 4 due to that loss. What is your thought that maybe there shouldn't be conference championship games anymore and maybe increase the playoff system to include 2 or more teams?
Right. I've heard, a lot of talk about that. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think there's a perfect system that we have right now, and I think there's some imperfections in the system that we do have right now. I think that in our case, in Georgia's case, both, we're in the top 4. So if you didn't have playoff games, we would be in the playoffs if you didn't have championship games. There's other schools, whether it's Notre Dame or whoever fits into that category, that they don't really have to play in a championship game. So if they had to play Georgia, would they get in the playoffs? If they had to play us, would they get in the playoffs? All right, so it's not really a level playing field in terms of if you have a championship game and you play we're playing 2 top 4 teams in the country, however you want to rank them, in the SEC championship game. And when we played Georgia in the SEC championship game, the year we played Notre Dame in the national championship game, the tougher game was the SEC game.
Exactly.
We won by 4 points.
That was a de facto title game.
Right. All right. So, but then Georgia was really better than the team that got in the playoff, is my point, I guess. All right. So it's not a perfect system the way it is now. I think if we eliminated the championship games and put 8 teams in, it would make it even better. But I think the downside of that would affect a lot of other bowl games in a negative way, because I said when we started this whole playoff thing years ago, it's going to minimize the importance of bowl games. And bowl games are a tremendous positive self-gratification for a lot of college football players, teams, and people involved in programs, and that it's going to minimize the importance of going to a bowl game. And I think that's happened. And that was a unique thing about college football that we don't really have anymore. And I think the bigger you make the playoff, the less important the bowl games are going to be. We've had players that choose not to play in a bowl game now. So the whole system, I think probably needs to be evaluated to figure out, what really might be the best way, not just for the playoffs, but for the whole college football deal. I mean, every team, everyone, is it just about the playoffs? If it's that, we ought to just put 16 teams in the playoff, not have any bowl games.
Yeah.
Just keep playing games like they do in Division II and all that. But if it's important for the balance in all these areas, then I think that's got to be taken into consideration as well.
It's also not a coincidence that these players who are skipping bowl games, it's now during the playoff era. You never saw that back 5-10 years ago. It's all happening now. Like, just to go off your point on that.
Right. Right.
Exactly. Coach, another visitor here at Baumhauer's Victory Grill with a question. Hello, sir. Good evening.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Coach, so Georgia, just like us, has two quarterbacks who are very capable of playing. And I was wondering how that might complicate your preparations when you might have to defend two quarterbacks.
Well, in this case, I think because, Jake Fromm does a really, really good job of running their offense. He's very efficient as a quarterback. He's very smart. He makes good decisions. He throws the ball the right place. He gets them in the right play. Does a really, really good job. But he is a sort of a pro-style quarterback, I'm going to call him, in a positive way. He's very athletic. He can run. He can make some plays with his feet. Justin Fields is a great athlete who can throw the ball. I mean, has a strong arm and is accurate, but he's also actually like a running back if they choose to run him in quarterback run type plays. All right, so it adds an extra dimension to their offense when he's in the game. That makes it really a lot more difficult preparation. I think there's no question. If you have two quarterbacks that play, but they're the same style and they do the same things, that it doesn't really make that big a difference. But in this case, it does have an impact on what they do when that particular guy's in the game.
Yeah, Fields ran for 100 yards against Massachusetts. They hadn't had a quarterback do that since Quincy Carter some 20 years ago. So the guy's talented. How has Jake Fromm improved since we saw him 327 days ago?
Well, I mean, I think he played really well against us last year, and I think he played well, all last year for them. But he has, I think, it's just, when people always ask me, how's Tua improved? How's Jake Fromm improved? It's their efficiency gets a little better. It means that they make a few more better decisions because of the knowledge and experience that they have. They do it more quickly because they've done it over and over and over again. They make fewer mistakes. And because the more experience they have, obviously they see a lot less new things. Yeah. And when somebody sees something new, that gets the quarterback to hold the ball a little bit or whatever, well, the more experience you have, you kind of run out of new things. Yeah. So I think that makes them more efficient, and I really think that's what I would say Tua has done, and I think that's what Jake Fromm has done.
There was an interesting article this week from Yahoo Sports that kind of mapped out the championship culture that you built when you first got here for the first couple of years. And they had pooled probably about 10 guys who played for you in 2007, 2009. And the common theme was tough love. I was curious, has it been ingrained in their minds? Have you had to change your philosophies in terms of giving the players tough love a decade later? Or is it already established culture that they know and expect what to do? Or are you basically still having to mold them like you were 10 years ago?
Well, I think it's different with different players. But, look, tough love is just like, first of all, the player's got to know you care about him. The player doesn't know, he doesn't care what you know if he doesn't know you care. I can promise you that. We care about our players. We want them to do the right things. And it's not just in football. It's in personal decisions that they make as people so they can be more successful in life, what they do in school in terms of getting an education, and then what they do in terms of the choices and decisions they make to be the best version of themselves they can be as athletes and football players. And, we don't take it for granted that everybody knows that or knows how to do that. And we have a program set up where, we try to define the expectation for them as a person, as a student, and as a player. And then we want to create a culture of accountability in terms of this is what you need to do. Here's the people that we have around you to help you do it. and we want you to learn how to be responsible for your own self-determination. Well, whether you're a parent or whether you're a coach, it's a lot like being a parent. I always tell the parents of the players that we recruit, we're in partnership with you to help your son be successful. Now, sometimes you have to give your children tough love when they don't do the right things. All right, sometimes you have to give them, that doesn't mean I'm not mad at them. I just confront and demand that you do the right thing. So I think that every player on our team should have that expectation for his coach. You know, I tell our coaches all the time, if you let guys do the wrong thing, if you're not coaching it, you're letting it happen. What's worse, letting the wrong thing happen or coaching a guy to do the right thing? And what benefits him the most? And, you know, I tell players all the time when this tough love thing comes up that I seldom ever get on a player where I can't identify how that's going to affect him personally and help him be personally better in the future. It's not about me. Not about me. I'm not getting on you to do the right thing because of me. I'm getting on you to do the right thing because of you, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. You say you want to graduate from college? Well, don't tell me you're not going to go to class.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit. Don't tell me you want to play in the NFL and you don't feel like practicing today. I mean, how's that benefit you getting where? And if I let you do it, is that good?
Fault. Yeah.
Is that good that I let them do it?
No.
Or is it good that I say, get your ass out there and do what you're supposed to do?
Is that the part?
That's the tough love part.
Yeah.
You make somebody do something they don't feel like doing, but it's in their benefit and their best interest to do it that way. What?
It's a very good point.
That's why they're champions.
Is that the part of this business that you really, in addition to winning games, is that the part of the business that you really do love? Taking these pieces of raw clay, if you will, and molding them into productive people? It seems as though every time you talk about that, you do get emotional. It seems like that's really at the heart of what you do in addition to winning games.
Well, I think that's why we win games.
Okay.
I really do. I mean, if the people that play on your team don't have the right mindset, the right focus, the right discipline, don't think about the right things. All right, and this is a result-oriented world. All right, so everybody out there is thinking about winning the game Saturday. But that's not what we need to think about. You know, we need to think about what do we have to do to win the game. What do you have to do? What do you have to focus on? You have to focus on what's right in front of you. What's right in front of you? The next play, the next block, the next catch, the next read to throw the ball the right place. That's what you need to focus on, because then you get the results that you want to get so you have a chance to win the game. But we live in such a result-oriented world that everybody just wants to, let's go win the game. How about what do we have to do to win the game? Same thing in practice. And don't tell me you're going to focus for 30 minutes. All right, don't tell me 60 minutes. I want you to focus every minute. What's wrong with that?
Nothing at all.
Well, that's what you got to do in the game.
It takes dedication, though. It really does.
Tua fakes the give, looks and finds a man loose and across the middle. Jacobs makes the grab at the 10, breaks the tackle to the 5. He's in. Touchdown, Alabama. Thank you very much. 33 yards of beauty to Josh Jacobs from Tua Tagovailoa.
The man we were speaking of a short while ago, now averaging 11.4 yards per reception. Josh is. That, of course, the 33-yarder he had the other day against the Auburn Tigers. As we welcome you back to Baumhauer's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa, the SEC Championship Game Preview Show presented by the Soup Store. And don't forget, folks, wherever Bama goes in the postseason, we will be there with them, of course, on the network. We'll also have talk shows coming up 2 days prior to the ball game. So wherever the Tide goes, whatever the postseason fates and fortunes are, we'll be there with you. And, of course, those talk shows coming up, again, 2 days prior to kickoff, all right here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Coach taking pictures, holding babies, doing the whole deal here as he has a big smile on his face. And I'll tell you, we have a great time here at this show all the time. And Coach, seeing the fans come out and with the families, with the future Crimson Tide stars. It's really very nice. The people who just support this program, doesn't matter how old they are, they're here and they're happy to participate.
Well, we have so many wonderful people who support the program in so many ways, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. We could never have the program that we have because, A, you create a spirit that's unique, I think, in college football. But number two, if people didn't support the program the way they do, we could never have the facilities that we have. We could never provide, all the things that we provide for our players in personal development, academic support, nutrition, medical staff. Staff that we have that coaches the players, all the things that help us, sort of keep at a high level, that helps our players develop. We could never do that if we didn't have a lot of people who supported the program.
Exactly right, exactly. Let's go back to the phones. Ryan in Pittsburgh with a question for us. Hello, Ryan. Welcome in.
Hey, Coach. Hey,
Hey
Good,
there.
Ryan. How are you?
thank you. With NCAA, that ever pile on cams and tablets, so when they review the calls, it make it a little easier.
Would you repeat that question, Ryan? We had a little trouble hearing you, sir.
I was just wondering if you think in NCAA if they'd ever get pile-on cams and tablets.
Oh, pylon
Like
cams and everything like they have in the
They used it
NFL
recently.
to make the replay calls a little easier.
Right. Well, I think that we'll continue to make investment in anything that, can help in terms of making the game fair and getting it right. I think, officiating and being an official is, a very difficult task. And I think that I've been doing this for a long time now, and I remember the days when we didn't have instant replay, and you couldn't review plays. Just look at the impact of the technology that we have now and how it's helped people get it right. And I know that sometimes we even disagree with the overturns or whatever happens on the replays, but I do think it's 100 times better than it used to be, and I think that we'll continue to try to make progress, from a technological standpoint that'll even make more improvement. I think the big thing is these things cost money. All colleges can't afford it. That's a little bit of the issue, but I think most Power 5 conferences can afford it.
Definitely.
This season, our TV station has one of your former players, Mike Johnson, as our weekly analyst on Saturdays. He's doing an awesome job. He's got a great future ahead of him. This is coming from Mike. It was the first day you two ever had a one-on-one conversation, and you may or may not remember this. His mom had been asking him, you had been there for like 2 weeks, how's Coach Saban? Well, Mom, I don't know. He's out recruiting. She called him one day and said, hey, I'm in Tuscaloosa. I called Saban's secretary. I'm having a meeting with him. And he was freaking out, like, oh my gosh, what's my mom going to do? He was obsessed over it all day, went to training, workouts later in the day, was avoiding you like the plague. And you walked up to him and go, 78, met your mom today. And he goes, oh gosh, Coach, I'm so sorry. My mom's crazy. And you said something along the lines of, hey, we all have mothers. Mine would do the exact same thing. So that makes me wonder, you have 120-some players on your team. I'm sure every parent's different in terms of how much they want to contact you. You have a very busy schedule. How do you find the time, and what's the protocol with players' parents who just want to know that you're invested and they want to hear from you? Like, how do you go about that on a busy day?
Well, I want you to know, since we're talking about Mike Johnson's mother, my mother's here.
Yes.
All right, and I will say this.
Mary, wave to everybody.
She was always supportive.
Yep.
All right, but you know what she told me?
What?
She said, you better do what the coach tells you to do. If you don't do what the coach tells you to do,
I hope Mike's mom
that's
told
on
him
you. Well,
I'll find out on Saturday.
it doesn't always happen that way now, I can tell you that. But look, we have really pretty good parents on our team. I think the parents have some faith, trust, and confidence in us. But I also tell the players that, you have to be responsible for your own self-determination as a player. In other words, don't tell your parents that you should be playing when you know that you're not one of the best players, whether it's what you do every day whether you're still developing and not sure what you're supposed to do because you're a young player, because that's not going to help you develop what you need to develop so that you can play. All right, because you're just creating sort of a false sense of security by telling people what they might want to hear.
But who are you better than?
Yeah. And I always ask that question. Yeah. All right, but I think that it's a maturity thing on the player's part that they have to be honest and understand reality when it comes to what is their position. If you can't self-assess and know where you are as a person and as a player, then it is very, very difficult for you to ever improve. How can you improve if you don't really know what you have to improve on? All right, so if you create this false sense of, well, I'm just upset because I'm not playing, all right, because everybody thinks I should be playing, what good is that doing? How is that making you better? All right, and you know, someday you're going to have to be out on your own. You're going to have to make decisions, and you're not going to have anybody to support you even if you're not doing the right things. So let's focus on you doing what you need to do to get better. And I said, tell me, do you think I don't play the best players?
You're asking me? You absolutely do.
Well, I'm asking the player.
Yeah.
I asked the player, how does that benefit me?
By not playing the best you got.
Yeah, how does it benefit any coach? How does it benefit assistant coaches? You know, we're not in a some kind of a contest to see who's the most popular person. You know, we're in the contest to see who competes the best, who can do it day in and day out, play with consistency, and play and have winning performance. And that's what we're trying to help you do. And if you stay focused on those things and have a positive attitude about that instead of being frustrated about how much you're playing, it goes back to the same thing I said before. Everybody out there wants to win the game on Saturday, but nobody wants to focus on what you have to do to win the game. This guy doesn't want to focus on what he has to do to be a good player and play. He wants to complain and be frustrated that he's not playing.
No good.
No good.
No good.
Jalen Hurts, as you heard Rashad tell us earlier, he's ready to go. Play action fake. BB strike across the middle. Caught by Waddle, near side 30. Outraces the DB, right side 10, 5. Touchdown, Alabama. 47 yards. Jalen Hurts to Jalen Waddle. All Jalen all the time. And the Tide stretches their lead to 51-21.
Awfully impressive right there. Great to see Jalen Hurts doing so very well. And, of course, Jalen Waddle. That's a Houston, Texas combination as those two gentlemen hook up time and time again as we welcome you back in. It's the SEC Championship Game Preview Show. We're presented tonight by the Soup Store, live here at Baumhauer's Victory Grill. Again, coming up Saturday, our coverage begins at noon Central. We'll be on the air with the kickoff at 3 o'clock Central Time. Chris Brees is with us from CBS 42 Sports. So tell me about your pregame special. What have you guys got?
Well, we're on Friday, 6:30, and then Saturday, 12 to 1:30. This is all Central Time. Did you know there's actually a connection between Alabama kickers and another team playing this weekend in Jacksonville State in the FCS? We're going to bring that story to you.
Cool.
You know, Rachel Barbeau now working with the College Football Playoff. Got a lot of Birmingham ties. We're doing a story on her and all she's doing with nationally with foundations and things like that. So we have that going on. And in our post-game show, we always carry Coach Saban live on the air right after the game. And we'll have Kirby Smart live as well.
So all of that coverage on CBS 42. Of course, CBS has the national telecast. Welcome back, gentlemen, here at the restaurant with a question. Good evening, sir.
What's up, Coach Saban?
Not much, buddy. How about you?
Doing good. During the past couple of games, we've had a few uncharacteristic penalties, especially after getting stops on third down. What are some different teaching points you and the coaching staff have used to help our players eliminate those mistakes?
Well, you know, I think that sometimes when players get penalties, we had 3 dead ball personal foul penalties in the Citadel game. People get a little bit, I'm going to use the term, maybe arrogant. All right, when you have an arrogant attitude, you think to yourself, you can't say that to me. You can't do that to me. You can't cut block me. So when you start saying that, and then you retaliate because you think you're above that, then you get a penalty. Now, is that a good way to be? Does that create any value for you in your future? And is that going to help you get better in any way, shape, or form? I think absolutely not. So we had some teaching moments around some of those penalties. And I think that there are emotional decisions that players make that can really hurt them and hurt the team, especially in tight games.
Thank you so much for joining us here this evening. Coach, the clock on the wall says it is time for your final word tonight, presented each week by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Well, you know, I hope that everybody out there realizes how hard this team has worked and how hard they've, the commitment that they've made to create an opportunity for themselves, which is a great opportunity to play in the SEC championship game. And, you know, these guys have gone through a lot. They've overcome a lot of adversity. You know, I'm really proud of the team that we have. I'm proud of what they've been able to accomplish. I think we've got a hell of a challenge coming up for us, you know, psychologically, you know, in the game that we're playing, you know, for the SEC championship game against a very, very good team. And I think it's going to be important that, you know, every guy is all in, every fan is all in, everybody is all in terms of their spirit to go over there and play our best, one play at a time for 60 minutes in the game. And we're going to have to change the way these guys think. There's no doubt about that, but our fans can certainly help us do that. We've always had great support, and I'm sure we'll have great support in this game.
Amen to that. Coach, thank you for your time on these Thursday nights. It's been great getting together with you, and we will have talk shows prior to our postseason game, so thanks for being part of the network and all you do for the university.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, this is one of the fun things that I do. I don't think people realize that I don't see any normal human beings until I come here on Thursday night. That I see the people that I work with, and I see the players. I'm in meetings all the time with coaches, and, you know, of course, I have, how many? Two 15-minute sessions with the media, which is the other thing I absolutely look forward to.
Teleconference, too.
You love doing that.
And you know, but I do enjoy this. It kind of brings me down to earth, you know, a little bit in terms of, you know, sometimes, you know, we got a report today that one of our best friends, and I won't mention any name, you know, has a sick son, and he's gone through a lot already, and now he's going to have to go through a lot more. And, you know, when you think of some of those things and how you can help other people and how some things are really about people, I think that it puts things in perspective for you a little bit. But coming here on Thursday night always puts things in perspective for me a little bit, and I appreciate you all for that.
Well, it's great to have you. And again, we'll have shows with the coach prior to the postseason games. Take care. Travel safe. We'll see you in Atlanta.